All right, so welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for the first of 2 City Skills Labs on the topic of ChatGPT and AI tools. In this workshop today, we're going to provide an overview of ChatGPT as well as a demonstration and hands-on activity. The second workshop, which is scheduled for June 1st, will focus on ways to use ChatGPT and AI tools as part of your teaching practice. And just a little bit about the structure of today's workshop. First of all, we're going to start off with a brief overview of ChatGPT, and that will be followed by a demonstration of the tool. Next, we'll talk about what faculty can do in response to this emerging technology. And then we'll move into a skills lab exercise in which we cover how to set up an account and how to use the tool and give you a chance to experiment as well. And then finally, we'll conclude with a discussion and provide you with some resources. Next slide, please.
I just want to jump in. Can everybody see my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Just checking.
And there will be 3 city instructional designers leading the discussion today. Peg, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Peg Checky. I think I've worked with a lot of you out there, but I've been with Rush since 2018. I'm an instructional designer.
And Laura?
Thank you.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm having issues on my end.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura, and I am an instructional designer with Citi. I've been here for a couple years now.
And I'm Emily Rush. I'm an instructional designer with Citi, and I'm the newbie. I've been here for about 1.5 years. Next slide, please. Our plan for today is to cover the following. And so first of all, we'll work on identifying key benefits and limitations of ChatGPT. By the end of the workshop, you'll be able to define specific role, task, and instructions that are relevant to creating effective ChatGPT prompts. You'll also work on producing and modifying ChatGPT prompts. And finally, we'll generate some possible uses for teaching. And before we go any further, we'd like to launch a poll to get a little bit of a sense of your experience with ChatGPT. So I can go ahead and launch the poll. If you would be willing to participate, that would be great. And just let us know what is your level of experience with ChatGPT.
It's a good mix.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting mix.
Yeah, it seems about half and half, right?
So I'm not seeing anything. I just have
Not
objectives.
yet. Not yet. You will.
Oh, okay.
We have a preview.
Oh,
Is Julianne saying she's not seeing the poll? Julianne, are you?
yeah, no, I didn't see the poll come up, but
Oh,
Oh.
is it behind another window, Julianne? Do you have multiple screens open?
There you go. It's blending into my other screen that has lots open. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. It happens to be every day. We'll give you a chance to answer, Julianne, and then we'll carry on.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So as Peg and Laura indicated, we have a really nice mix of people who have different levels of experience with ChatGPT today. And we welcome everyone of all levels and all comfort. So this is great. Okay, next slide, please. And here we have another poll. So in our open forum on ChatGPT that we held on March 23rd, we conducted a poll about faculty responses to the tool. And as you can see, there was quite a mixed response. About 41% of you said you were excited to use the tool. 9% were kind of ambivalent with a meh, and 50% was pessimistic. And what struck us as we were thinking about today's workshop is how your responses seem fairly close to what EDUCAUSE published in a poll on February 14th, in which faculty, staff, and admins were surveyed about their thoughts about ChatGPT. But wherever you are in terms of your thoughts about the tool, we hope to help you out. If you're feeling a little bit pessimistic or ambivalent, we'll hope that we can help get rid of some of that. If you're excited, hopefully we'll help you think of ways to become even more excited about the tool. Okay, so next slide, please. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I just want to take a minute to explain what is ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, which was released in November of 2022, is a type of artificial intelligence model developed by OpenAI, it's the company, and it's rooted in the technology of large language models, or LLMs. And this is a type of advanced artificial intelligence algorithms that are trained on a massive data set of text. These can be very human-like by predicting the next word in a sequence. And it's not a perfect comparison, but I like to think of it as somewhat akin to predicative texting that we have on our mobile phones, but in a much more sophisticated way. So basically, ChatGPT, using this technology works, you ask a question or provide a prompt, and then it replies in a variety of styles using natural language. Next slide, please.
And did Emily, not to interrupt your flow, but did we want to put the Padlet up just to give people a
Oh,
place to
yeah,
jot
sure.
notes or thoughts?
Yeah. Do one of you, Laura or Peg, have the link to that?
I can throw it in the chat, sure.
Okay, so while I'm talking, Peg is going to put a link to a Padlet in the chat. And this is just a chance to give us a little bit more input about your thoughts about ChatGPT and a way for us to record what you're thinking so we can come back to those in the second workshop. So please feel free to interact with the Padlet at any time. If you have questions about the Padlet or how to respond, go ahead and put those in the chat. All right, so next question is, why would I care about ChatGPT? And one of the reasons why anyone, but especially educators, might care is that the tool can generate unique and well-written responses to a variety of prompts, including essay prompts. This naturally can lead to concerns about academic integrity, authorship, and the future of higher education. And some of the things that are both remarkable and a little unsettling about the tool is the free tool can produce responses that are about 3,000 words in length. The paid version can generate 25,000 word responses. So that's about 100 pages. That's awesome in a variety of ways. So next slide, please.
Awesome yet terrifying.
Exactly, yes, thank you. All right, so just some basic things that ChatGPT can do. And keep in mind that the tool is constantly changing. But right now, some of the things it can do include answering questions. It can summarize and explain information and create novel content. Generally, you could use it for things like generating emails. You can write poems in the specific style of an author. I recommend doing this if you're bored. And you can also write choose your own adventure stories. Next slide, please. A little more specifically in terms of education, some things that the tool can do are to help you write lesson plans. You can design quiz or test questions, write directions for a learning activity, or provide a revised version of a text with improved grammar and spelling. I've tried this and I also highly recommend doing this, both for you and your student. Okay, next slide, and let's learn a little bit about what ChatGPT cannot do yet. And again, this is changing, especially I think recently ChatGPT launched a Chrome and Edge extension. So a lot of these things may be changing, but currently it can't write a self-reflection. And it's my understanding that it also can't write about anything that happened after June 2021 at this point. This specific tool can't provide non-text-based responses such as images. And it's also not very good about speculating about future events. It has difficulty drawing connections between class content and visual materials. And very, very importantly, it does not generate accurate citations to a reliable degree. Next slide, please. So with all this in mind, you might be wondering about plagiarism detection. There are a variety of AI detection tools out there. As of the most recent information, some of the tools, such as OpenAI's tool, is accurate only about 26% of the time in terms of identifying AI written text. It also incorrectly identifies writing as AI made about 9% of the time. Just this month, Turnitin launched its own tool, but as we see from the image from the Washington Post, it also misidentifies text to some degree. So what this means is that for these AI detection tools, there is currently a high probability of false positives and false negatives, and that anyone who generates AI text and then intervenes by replacing sentences or rewording the text can also confound AI detection software. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't use these tools, but it's highly recommended that they shouldn't be your primary decision-making tool for searching out or looking for AI written text. Okay, and next slide, please. I'm just going to wrap up my portion of today's presentation by telling you just a little bit, a few other things that you might want to know about ChatGPT. And the first, as Peg will expound upon, is that the tool is only effective as the prompts that you enter. So as you become more comfortable with the tool, it's really important to learn how to generate and enter effective prompts and to learn how to modify them to really get the kind of information you're looking for. Some caveat perhaps is that as you're using the tool, it does collect data and it will save your searches even if you delete the account. Early on, a couple of months ago with ChatGPT, sometimes if you would ask it to write a specific response of a specific link, it would sort of peter out at around 800 words or so. So it is possible that it can stop generating a reply mid-response. And a big problem with ChatGPT and AI tools are what is called AI hallucinations, which basically means that these tools sometimes just make stuff up rather than saying, I don't know. This is
Sort of
especially
like some people I know.
Yeah, exactly. This is especially problematic when it comes to citations. If you ask ChatGPT to generate a text and give citations, sometimes it will give you citations, and oftentimes it will reference key authors in the field, but they're not actually accurate citations, if that makes sense. And also importantly, ChatGPT tends to incorporate biases because the text and tools that it was trained on also have biases. So it might pass along those biases into the material that it generates. And before we move on to Peg, are there any questions that we need to address?
Oh, and Jeff has a comment in the chat. He says you can try continue to keep it going with the responses if it seems to have stopped. So that's a good tip if you get the when it stops generating a response. Have you come up with a solution for the AI hallucinations yet, Jeff? Nothing yet. Maybe he's going to put it in the chat later.
Yeah, no, I have not.
I think that's going to be our next thing, right? Okay. Emily, was this your
yeah,
slide?
sorry, I forgot about this slide. And for some reason, some of the image isn't coming through, but that's okay. So really importantly, what I want to stress before I wrap up is that it's not possible to ignore ChatGPT at this point. In the first 90 days that the tool was released, it had over 1 billion users, and it's one of the fastest growing consumer applications in history. And it's constantly becoming updated and more powerful. On March 14th, a more updated version came out, and the next update, I think, is slated for December 2023, which is going to be significantly more powerful than what we have now. Also, as we'll talk about in our second workshop, is that in fact, it's just one of many AI tools. All that said, though, I do want to stress that, there may be some apprehension with this tool, but there's really a great deal of potential for teaching and learning. So there's really a lot we could do with it once we come to terms with the tool and start thinking about different ways to use it. And with that, I'll hand it over to Peg.
All right, thanks, Emily, for getting us started. I'm going to share a new screen.
So can I make a comment, real quick comment?
Please do, yeah.
It's a great tool for teaching and stuff, but I needed to warn, I tried this and I noticed several problems with it. One was, as you said, citations, and very inaccurate citations, they're not correct. Two, the bias, it just overlooks some of the most recent things since 2015. It goes basically picks some of the things that are more in view. So a lot of times, if you use this information to teach a class, you're gonna miss most recent data. So you have to be mindful of what you use. And also for publications, a lot of papers are being retracted. So people have to be very mindful of using ChatGPT, because if they're detected that there is involvement in that one, their articles will be retracted.
Absolutely. Thank you for those points. And we will be covering a lot of the pluses and minuses as we continue on. Do not hesitate to jump in though with your comments. That's very, very helpful for us. And Thomas Hopner asks if the prompt has to be typed or can it be spoken. That depends on the technology that you're using. I mean, you can always use voice to text in the type space that ChatGPT has. And some applications are actually, you can actually chat with them and it's an AI voice that comes back. So that's getting even more creepy. So yeah, with that said, let's just do a basic demo at this point. And hold on a moment while I jump on and share my screen. You guys should all see my Firefox desktop, yeah?
Yep.
Hopefully. I'm going to jump on here and copy the link for ChatGPT itself. And just to point out, we are referring to this as ChatGPT, but actually what we're talking about is AI tools in general. ChatGPT is just the hottest, best one right now, but there are lots and lots of things that use AI going forward. And every day, as Emily mentioned, there's more and more to it. So let's just go to openai.com. And this link will be provided to you so you can log in or sign up, because if you haven't signed up already, you'll want to. In fact, if you want to do that now, that would be helpful, because later on in the afternoon, we're going to try to get you guys to use ChatGPT a little bit. I already have an account. I'm going to log on. Sometimes I don't even get on because it's so busy. So hopefully that's not going to happen here. Yay, I got in. Okay, so to create a new chat, I can just enter a prompt in down here. You can see these are all the different prompts that I've used at this point. I can clear the conversations at any time. I can upgrade to Plus and spend $20 a month to get better responses, to get guaranteed access to the tool, to get more in-depth information added. I'm not going to do that because I like to write. So I'm not going to spend $20 a month just yet. And then there are settings and help, and you can log out down here. The main part of the screen is where everything happens. You can see that there are examples, capabilities, and limitations. If you want to read through those links, feel free to do so on your own. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Let me put a prompt in and see what I get. And I have no idea if this information is right or wrong. I got this prompt from another faculty member who allowed me to use it. But this is how quickly it generates the answer. So you can imagine that students at 2 o'clock in the morning, when they're sick of doing homework and they have an open book exam, and they're going to come in there and do just this, right? The thing to remember is that the prompt is only as, or the answer is only as good as the prompt. So there's a technique in asking the questions that you want to get. When I put this prompt in for the first time, the faculty member read it and said, well, holy cow, that's exactly what I would be looking for. So I guess it works. All right. So then we started talking about, well, what about if, how would I set up my prompt? How would I set up my question so that the students couldn't use this tool? And there are some things that we can do really quickly. So in the second prompt, I'm going to add, hold on one second. I got to copy this one a little bit longer. So in my second prompt, I'm adding some instructions. I'm having them add, I gave them a word bank that they have to use. And we played around with this, and we added in words that had absolutely no place in the response. ChatGPT doesn't know that, so it will create a place for those words if you tell it to use it. So we added in things like Play-Doh and London and playground. And sure enough, the prompt put those words in there somehow, right? And then we also did, please cite your sources and use references from 2022 or later. We also said not to exceed 200 words, right? And we were very explicit about what we wanted it to do. And you can also, you can add as much of that kind of restriction as you want to do. So let's see what ChatGPT does with this prompt. And it's generating. You can see that it's kind of struggling at this point. There must be a lot of usage right now. But you can see already that just by adding in some restriction, it challenges it more. But that's the kind of thing that it will produce. Some interesting, while this is thinking, I'm going to jump on to my next idea. While this is thinking, or I'm sorry, while this is processing, remember too that we also have something called DALL-E, which produces images. So and that's another kind of AI. So again, we're talking primarily about ChatGPT at this point, but it's important to remember that there are other AIs out there. DALL-E, for example, will do pictures. So let me, can anybody throw out a suggestion either in the chat or just unmute of what we'd like to do a picture of? I'd like this to be as random as possible.
Why don't we
Anybody?
Team and say kidney injury?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Kidney injury.
Oh, that's so funny because I was actually thinking that. Let's see what it brings up. An armchair in the shape of an avocado. Okay.
I like the others in the chat as well. Gremlin roller skating.
Oh, I'm going to do gremlin roller skating for sure. So, this is what comes up. As you can see, it's not very robust or, useful.
No.
It can be fun though. And I only have 9 credits left, so I can't do too many more. Let's do gremlin roller skating. Let's see what happens. Oh, and I got, this is the message you get when too many people are on. So I can't do any more here. Let's go instead. Let's move over to, this is an AI tool called Perplexity, and it's actually favored by higher education professionals. And let me just try loading that one and see what it does. I don't have an account with this one, but this one was made by one of the same people that worked on the OpenAI project. And the reason that they like this one better is that it automatically embeds citations within the responses. So you get your in-text citations as you go. And then it provides a list of additional information in case you want to go dig in more. So again, it's very similar in how it works. I haven't signed up for this one, but it's yet another one. Chat PDF is another one. Let me open that hyperlink. Thank goodness it opened on the same page. What this one does is it summarizes PDFs. So if you have a whole bunch of really long, drawn out PDFs. It will summarize it. It'll give you priority listings. It'll list ways to analyze it, etc. And then finally, let's jump over to Microsoft Copilot, which I haven't used yet, but there's a really cool video. Let me see if I can share this video with sound. Whoops. Hold 1 second. I don't want to start it playing. I'm going to stop sharing so I can reshare with sound. Hold on 1 second. Can you guys hear that
Copilot in
okay?
Excel helps you make sense of all your data. Say you need to analyze this quarter's sales results. You start by asking Copilot to analyze the data and give you 3 key trends. Within seconds, you've got what you need, but you want to drill in. You ask Copilot a follow-up question about one of the trends. Copilot creates a new sheet, giving you a sandbox to play in and helping you better understand what's happening. You ask Copilot to visualize what contributed to the decline in sales growth this period. Copilot adds a little color to make the problem jump off the page. Now you want to dig deeper and ask a follow-up question with a what-if scenario. Copilot not only answers your question, it creates a simple model and even asks if you want to learn more about what it did with a step-by-step breakdown. Finally, you can ask it to create a graph of your projected model. Copilot in Excel turned a sea of data into clear insights and actions.
So I don't know about you, but I got a little nervous when I saw that video. And that Copilot, by the way, has not yet been released to the general public. It's coming out. It's being beta tested with some corporate enterprises at the moment, and then they're suspecting it'll come out in the next several months. But what's interesting about that is that it's going to be attached to all of their apps, right? So Excel, Word, all of them. And it will also work with the Google Suite, from what I understand. By definition, this is not going back in any kind of a box. So do you guys have questions about, now that you've seen it, are you even more terrified of it, or are you feeling like how exciting this is?
Me, it's medium range,
Yeah.
because I see already the negatives and the reservations that are associated with it, but I also see it. I think it's a fun tool at this moment. For me, it's more entertaining than really of considerable value in my teaching.
Well, and I think, yeah, that's an important point to make too, because part of this is that as we learn how to use it, because remember, we've only seen it since March ourselves.
Right.
As we learn how to use it, as we learn how to use the tool, we're all going to find new ways to implement it. And at this point, for me, I would see it as a good jumping off place. If I was tasked with an assignment and I really didn't know where to start, I might put it into ChatGPT just to get something to see so that I could see what I was dealing with. Oh, and there's one I didn't show you. I was going to. Canva, which we use a lot here at Rush, actually you can design a whole presentation. It will create the presentation with graphics, words. All you have to do is put the prompt in, and it will show. It's not very in depth, and it certainly is not good for technical writing. But I did one quickly for professionalism in the medical field. It took 30 seconds, and it hit all the highlights. I mean, it was pretty good. So just things to think about there. I think it's time for me to turn over to Laura. So I'm going to stop talking and let her take over. I'm going to share the presentation again.
All right, thank you, Peg and Emily. All right, so here we have the elephant in the room, right? So what can educators do about it? So as you've learned, as Emily communicated to us, we can't ignore it, right? We can use it or not use it, but I would suggest that it should be acknowledged in your courses and in your teaching. So know that now that we are nearing the end of the spring term, this is not something you have to do today unless you feel it is necessary. I would recommend just begin by reflecting on the tool itself and what you plan to do with it, if anything. So in this part of the presentation, you will be given suggestions for how to introduce the tool to your students. I will sort of briefly mention pedagogical uses for ChatGPT, but that's going to be examined in greater detail in part 2 of the workshop series, which will be more application-based. So here's how you can just get started beginning to address the existence of the tool in your teaching. Peg, if you would go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so before we discuss the steps, I think it's important to examine motivations for cheating. After all, that's probably one of your primary concerns with the advent of ChatGPT and other AI tools, since they can be used to collaborate or supplant students' writing in your courses and assignments. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Why do you think students cheat? Perhaps included among the lists, the items included here, but also, what has been your experience? Feel free to throw your answers in the chat or unmute if you like.
The situations that I've seen have been students who have multiple demands on their time pressure, and they felt like they resorted to something just to get something in on time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have that. Peg, if you could go back to the last slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, great example. And that's sort of pertains to my second point here. They're overwhelmed, stressed, short on time, right? Ben and Yvonne, you both mentioned time. That is a key motivating factor, I would agree. I would also add to that point 1 says that they don't understand assignment expectations, right? Maybe the assignment expectations are vague or unclear. Maybe they have other barriers to understanding. Maybe they are not familiar with or haven't been taught to value the standards of academic integrity. And I think a key one is the last point here. And I believe that's been shown through data that they don't believe that an assignment is a worthwhile use of their time. It's not important for their future career. It's something they just need to get done. So that might be a motivation to just maybe use a tool like ChatGPT to get it done. And Bryce mentioned they felt like they had no other option to submit or pass an assignment. Yeah, it could be due to time, could be due to struggling with grades, and cheating may be their only option. And yeah, often it comes out of desperation, right? A moment of desperation. We have a lot of conflicting demands on our time, right? Students, faculty, all of us. So that could also be a motivation. And then Peg mentioned students don't always see that bigger picture. And that's another great. This is by no means an exhaustive list of reasons, but these are some of the main ones. And I think it's important to have a good understanding of that before we begin to talk about how to even approach the subject of AI tools in your teaching. Peg, would you go to the next slide, please? All right. So these next recommendations are designed to accomplish both goals simultaneously, to help you reduce these motivations for cheating, but also give you advice for introducing AI in your classroom. And you'll hopefully see that these recommendations work hand in hand and also reinforce foundational principles of a well-designed course. So I think you'll find that you'll be accomplishing many things through implementing of these recommendations. So it's likely you already have a policy in your syllabus around academic integrity and the use of external technology tools. I would recommend considering adding a statement to these existing policies about the use of AI tools in ChatGPT. If this policy is inherited and mandated by your program or college, suggest that it be edited to include AI. And I do know that Rush is currently working on a policy, which is forthcoming. But there are already lots of good examples out there to help you as you write this. And we've provided some references a link to a huge document that Peg crafted, which includes some sample policies developed by other institutions. So you don't have to invent or reinvent the wheel here. You can modify it based upon what already exists. And I've provided a couple of examples in the following slides. But in short, you should provide a clear description of what it is, a rationale for its use or its prohibition in your classroom, and also the consequences for its use if prohibited. So Peg, if you would go to the next slide, I have an example from a couple of examples to share, actually. Thank you. This is from the Center for Teaching and Assessment of Learning at the University of Delaware. This is an example of use prohibited. Students are not allowed to use advanced automated tools on assignments in this course. Each student is expected to complete each assignment without substantive assistance from others, including automated tools. So there's an example of use prohibited. And on the next slide, we have a just recently published example of use. Oops. Just a moment, please. We have an example of use with permission. This is from National Louis University. Students must obtain permission from me before using any AI composition software for any activities or assignments in this course. Using these tools without my permission without being properly cited can be considered academic dishonesty and may result in disciplinary action. So you may also decide to permit tools on certain assignments, in which case you can add or modify this or modify this language to include an assignment description in the event that you may be using it. I would just recommend just be clear as possible and explicit in the guidelines themselves and in the parameters for its use and the consequences if it's not permitted.
Hey, Laura, can I have a question about, like, just a follow-up
Sure.
thought? You know, when you it just brings up that without properly citing, so can you cite ChatGPT? Is that they approve it then?
There are recommendations for citing ChatGPT. It is a tool. It's not a, it's like any other tool. So it's not an actual source as you would be expected to see. So I believe the link that Emily just shared, it includes suggestions for how to cite ChatGPT in citations, correct?
I'm not sure if it does, but I'm putting the APA guidelines in the chat right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, and we can add that section to the resources document. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion and great question. There you go. How to cite ChatGPT APA style. Thank you, Emily. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please, Peg? Thank you. Second point, I would also recommend that you just talk about it with your students, right? Have a frank discussion with them. It's likely that your students are as concerned and confused about the tool as you may be. And like you, they also, I would argue, they really want to do work of substance and quality, right? They don't want to be accused of using such tools to complete them. I would say the vast majority, perhaps that's the Pollyanna in me that says that, but, and here I've offered for some suggestions for how you might do that. Perhaps introducing the subject on day one, leading a discussion if you're in an in-person course, or you might, in an online or hybrid course, add to a welcome video where you talk about the importance of academic integrity in your course, or facilitate a discussion on the topic. Consider framing your discussion around your existing policy on academic integrity and the importance of intellectual honesty, not just in their work at Rush, but in their future professional lives. And above all, I would say really emphasizing a culture of trust and mutual respect, one that you too will comply with, I think goes a long way toward facilitating and fostering a community in which these kinds of unauthorized uses of such tools is the risk is somewhat mitigated. Next slide, please. And like Ben before, feel free to jump in with questions or comments. I just have a couple other slides and then we'll move to the more application-based part of this skills lab. Number 3, be transparent and explicit. And that's something that's always good anyway. Much of the motivations for cheating can be reduced by crafting clearly written assignment guidelines. As you've learned, if your assignment descriptions are vague or incomplete, students may likely not understand them and may be motivated to use AI or plagiarize, especially if they're rushing to complete them. Providing clear instructions and explaining your terms, avoiding academic jargon that hasn't previously been introduced or that isn't explained, writing an achievable and explicit grading rubric, providing exemplars or examples of student work with permission. I know these are a lot of things that you guys already do, and because they're foundational principles for good teaching and good course design, but I also think that they can support your use and introduction of or avoidance of these AI tools in your work. And I would say, most importantly, and I try to do this in my own teaching, remind students that it's your voice they're looking for. You want to see what they know about something and that their personal experiences are valid and important. And I would say this is probably the single most important point, in addition to the points on the following slide that I can make here about, efforts at personalizing your course assignments as a means of mitigating that risk, because as we know, ChatGPT isn't great at that, right? The responses are somewhat sterile. Next slide, please. And lastly, designing for accessibility and equity. Again, foundational principles of good course design. They don't just serve students needing accommodations, but it supports everyone. So following this practice is good altogether, but could also help to prevent the unauthorized use of these tools. So creating accessible materials, following equitable grading practices, avoiding only high stakes summative assignments. So if you're just assigning a big paper that's due the last week of class worth 60% of their grade, right? The motivation to use AI tools like that to craft that paper is going to be higher, right? Because not only are students worried and they are short on time, but their grade literally rides on it. So if you provide purposeful formative assignments and scaffold those assignments, have them complete papers in stages, which I know a lot of you do already, it also helps to sort of mitigate that risk. And then you can also compare their final product with a previous version. Allowing different modalities in assignment submission, like video or audio. We know that ChatGPT is not good at producing non-written examples, right? So if you allow them to, or ask them to submit a video response to a discussion post, that might be a good alternative to, or a good way of avoiding potential use of AI. Authentic assessments, and as I mentioned, personalization. So again, a lot of these are big topics and we could go in a lot of different directions with them, but just, remembering these key principles, being, really 4 key ways you can help mitigate that risk. And of course, they don't eliminate the risk entirely. I don't know that we ever can, but in general, they're good principles to follow and will help you and your teaching and your course become better. So I'm going to pass it back to Peg here because we're going to start getting into the application part. Okay. I'm sorry, any other questions? I apologize. I did not ask that. Are there any questions about what I've covered or what's been discussed so far before we move on?
I know we had one question in the chat regarding whether Rush was going to be putting it into the syllabus, our ultimate policy. I'm trying to find the current syllabus is generated by city. It's not generated by city. It's housed by city. That it's generated by by faculty committees and whatnot. We just put it out there. But we're moving to a new tool very shortly that you've probably heard of. It's been in the newsletters. It's been on the grapevine for a while. It's called Simple Syllabus. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to have it's going to be one centralized repository for all the syllabi in every program, in every college. So, and that will be where that ultimate policy lives. So exciting times. Can't wait to get rid of our shepherding of the syllabus, because it seems to change every time somebody changes where they want a comma. We have to put out a new syllabus and people get mad at us. So we're excited to have that change and not have that responsibility. So yeah, that's the short answer to that. Before anybody else leaves the room, does everybody have a ChatGPT account that's here? Just say yes in the chat or raise your hand or give a thumbs up or something.
No.
Because I have one no. Thomas, are you willing to create a ChatGPT account, or do you want to?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you could go ahead and do that, go ahead to the OpenAI link that Laura put in the chat a while ago. I'll put it in again just because. And that should be able to allow you to create a chat. Create an account, and then thanks, Emily. I was struggling desperately to find it. What I'm going to ask you guys to do, I'm going to break you up. We have enough people that we can use breakout rooms. That never happens in our sessions, so yay. But I'm going to break everybody. We're going to do a bunch of different breakout rooms, and I'm going to have you guys just practice. I'm going to have you do a prompt. I'm going to have you create a prompt. I'm going to have you revise a prompt. I'm going to have you do whatever your heart desires, but most importantly, what I want to do is capture your process and your thoughts as you're doing it. One of the other pieces of the puzzle as we get into, go through this time, is to think of a few ways that you might use this in your own work, either as a teacher or researcher, wherever you are and whatever you do. Let's think of some ways that you're going to use it.
Hi. Since I use ChatGPT for a while, I just wondering if I use it sometime to help me revise my writing. So is that okay?
I think do you care if I answer this or respond, Laura?
No, please do.
I think it's really useful to use it to revise writing in terms of asking it to give specific feedback for grammatical suggestions or things like that. In terms of student writing, I've tried inputting student writing and inputting a rubric, and it will give feedback on in terms of applying the guidelines. I haven't tried yet, but I do wonder if you could input your writing and input journal guidelines, and if it might give you some feedback about how you adhere to journal guidelines. I don't know if that's the question you're asking.
I don't know if I can put the journal guideline to ask it to revise for me, but I just simply put a prompt as, please revise this paragraph. So then it rewrite it, but sometimes it makes sense, but sometimes it's still not.
Right. I think, yeah, that's hit or miss. I know Peg, who's in a different room, also likes Quillbot as an effective AI sort of paraphrasing tool. So that might be something else to consider.
What tool it is?
It's Quillbot. I can put it in the chat.
Okay. I also just FYI, you tried the DALL-E, introduced by Peg just now, and I paid to use it. But the figure generated, I'm not satisfied with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it does not make sense, those figures, even though if you seems like in the content, but it's not, what I want at least. Yeah, I think probably the ChatGPT is better. It's more advanced than the DALL-E, I think.
Yeah, I think DALL-E will get better. As someone mentioned, Midjourney as a tool in the chat, and it has some really remarkable effects. As Laura noted at one point, some of the figures had 6 fingers.
Yeah,
which is maybe not desirable, but
yeah,
I think it's getting better. So that might be a tool to consider. I tried it, and just from my personal experience, I found it had a bit of a learning curve that was discouraging to me. But the images that it creates are very striking.
Yeah, especially those medical,
Yeah.
image. I just want to try to create one in our profession, but it's completely, out of my expectation. Does not make sense at all.
Right.
Yeah, could you share what prompt were you using for DALI when you're asking
Okay,
it to?
so can I share my screen with you?
Sure.
Okay. So you see, I asked this one to say a clinician is taking care of patient who is using mechanical ventilated ICU. Then turns out to be like this. It's completely, first of all, this patient is not on using mechanical ventilation. You cannot see the face very clearly, like that. And this one is not a ventilator at all. I even don't know what this device is. It's not, I don't think it's the device we use in ICU. And I just think it probably made it up. And this one is also a lot of ventilator, and this one is not at all. I don't know. I mean, they probably put several devices into one. Then and also you can see the patient is not. Even you cannot see the face, you cannot see the patient is on the ventilator. And this one, you see how many I don't know if this is a hand. If so, how many fingers this patient has. I tried multiple things, but none of them make sense for me. None of them, is what I want,
Right.
Yeah, so that's a problem for DALI. I don't know if is that because I did not describe very clearly, but either way, I don't think this tool, at least for now, is mature for use.
Yeah, it's
I even
certainly
paid $15 just now to get this credit to generate the figure, generate the image.
sure. I mean, it's a function of the prompt itself, which, I mean, to me, the prompt seems relatively clear. But the other part of that equation is how sort of deep the pool is of knowledge that DALI has about, for example, medical ventilators in an ICU. What it may, for example, be doing is saying, well, I don't know what a ventilator is, but I know medical devices and patients, so it's going to approximate that as best it can. But you're right. I think over time, as again that pool of information grows, it will be able to be a little more precise in its response, or more accurate.
I think compared to my experience on working using DALI, I think the experience with ChatGPT is better. Yeah, this is what I use. Sometimes I will use. I say, please revise this paragraph. Then I put it there, then it rewrite for me, but some of them it makes sense. But others, sometimes you still have to revise it, like that. Yeah. So question, so if I use this ChatGPT to help me revise my writing, so when I submit to a journal, is that okay or not?
It varies from journal to journal. I can look through my email, but I've been saving different policies, and I know some journals have developed policies in which AI is allowed but should be cited. Other journals are prohibiting it.
Yeah, but I did not ask ChatGPT to write for me. I just give what I wrote.
Right.
And ask it to revise for me.
I would think that would be acceptable. There's a lot of murky waters here, though. Like there are no specific answers that yet, because the tool is too new. And in my mind, that's a good use of ChatGPT, right? Because it's essentially asking generative AI to help you to refine your words. As long as they're your words, shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
It's interesting just to note that in articles that have talked about the positive side of AI, this is actually, to my memory, was one of the examples that was given, is that it would allow original work to be, particularly for folks who maybe English is not your first language, that it will allow your material to be polished, more
More
refined that
readable.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more
yeah.
reader friendly. I would like to say that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So talk to us. Now is the time where we dissect. What happened? What was it good? Was it bad? Was it horrible? Are you terrified? Do you hate it? What? We'll take notes while you talk. Talk amongst yourselves.
And Peg, I'm going to throw that Padlet in again for people who'd rather just put it on the board.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea
Well,
too.
Yeah, well, this is Kathy. It was actually surprisingly easy to use, really.
Yay.
And when we were interested in a PowerPoint presentation, and it actually would say, at first it said it doesn't do it, but then it actually did it. It said slide 1 and gave you content, slide 2, content. So it was in the form of a Word document that you could create then a PowerPoint for. So I thought it was, yeah, I was impressed.
So if you took that information and put it into Canva's ability to generate graphics, or the up and coming Microsoft's ability to generate graphics with PowerPoint, you use the two things together and you've got a presentation in half the time.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
The one downside though is like you should use it as an outline, I would say, because yes, you have the outline, the presentation, but there's no citation. And so when I ask the ChatGPT to get, like we ask for, I just ask fall management, like management of falls, and create a lesson plan. So it created a lesson plan with times, like 10 minutes for introduction and blah, 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 and all these external activities. And then it created me a lesson plan, which is nice. So I asked the ChatGPT to create a lecture, a 1-hour lecture based on the lesson plan. It did create me a lecture, but it's a bare bone. It's not for 1 hour, I would say. It's an outline. So I would say use it as an outline. Like if maybe you have writer's block, for example, and you're starting something and you just need to get to your juices flowing, do that. The other thing that I noticed is that I asked the ChatGPT to create the lesson plan with citations. The citations are not updated. So they're like from 2002 or 2006. And as we're training scholars to write scholarly writings within the past 10 years at least, or 5 years of the literature. And so it's not there, but it asks like Cochrane reviews, so it's like interesting.
Again, I'll say it again. I used it a few times now because, like you just said, I had writer's block. I could not get started. I had no idea what I wanted to do and what direction I wanted to go. So I threw it into ChatGPT, and it gave me a reasonable enough format that I could then take that and make it my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And something else that I forget who brought it up when we were here before, but somebody else was talking about the idea that you really need to know what you're talking about before you start using it, which is why I don't think students are going to have much use for it after a while, because the output is only as good as the prompts it receives, right? And if you're a student, you don't know enough information to be able to write a good prompt necessarily. And so the first time you get a bad grade because it doesn't go into enough detail or whatnot, that'll be the last time you use ChatGPT to generate your work.
And then also the students, if they use ChatGPT to write a paragraph, there will be data there that they will write, but there's no citation. So they still have to look for the citation to support whatever ChatGPT has said. And so as a faculty, that's a way of us, okay, you need a citation here. Where did you get this? Kind of thing. So.
Yep, very helpful. Thanks, Ben. Someone else brought up the idea of using it for posters. Did anybody try that?
Oh, I did, Sivan. we just submitted we are presenting in 2 weeks, and we have a poster, and it took gazillion hours to create. So
Well, there again, you could ask it to generate the salient points for you and then use something to dig out the images that you want for it. So let me just show you really quickly, because Amarjeet also just asked about the presentation software. So let me share my screen real quick and I'll show you that. It's not great by any stretch. I mean, I don't want you to think that it's it's not all that in a bag of chips, but it's all right. Let's see, is it this one? Yeah, okay. So if I click, this is Canva, which we use at Rush quite often, right? Canva.com. Somebody wants to pop that in the chat, that would be great. If I click on create a design and go down to presentation, I can click on this magic button down here or magic design box here, right? And if I click on, it's the Canva assistant, and I can draft a presentation with AI. So what was your poster about?
it was leveraging doctoral student projects to improve health outcomes in older adults.
Wow.
I have no idea what's going to happen. Let's see. That's a good sign. It didn't laugh at us and say no. Then you get to choose your style. I don't know. I'm kind of partial to, let's do, what do you have a favorite here, guys?
Like
Let's
the
just
one
for
with the green
simplicity.
block at the bottom, because we
Doesn't
have green
matter.
block as our templates in the College of Nursing.
So this one, this one?
Yeah, please.
Perfect. Okay. So let's create our presentation. Let's close this. Let's make it bigger so we can see what we're doing. Actually, we'll go into presentation mode. How's that? Can you guys all still see
Incredible.
everything?
Yes.
Introduction to the problem. Oops. Yeah, health issues faced by older adults. Now, obviously, you'd need to bump that up and give it more oomph, right?
Yeah.
Oh. I like it has the graphics already there, Ben. You know, the
Yeah.
Me
pictures.
too. I like that too, because
Yes.
I get sucked down the rabbit hole of looking for pictures all the time.
Yeah.
I agree.
And then I start looking at pictures of, oh, gardens. Oh, that's a pretty garden. Let's go down there. And, I end up not doing anything on my project because I'm on a Pinterest board about making bread.
That's what I do with colors and color combinations. I get lost in that rabbit hole.
So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not, it's not anything to say, oh my God, wow, that's amazing. But it at least gives you a starting point.
And give it time. Maybe in a year it will be amazing.
All right, let me stop sharing and go back into conversation mode. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about with regard to your experience using it? There were some good comments on the ChatGPT document. I love the one about glass health. Katie heard about it on NPR the other day. I'm going to go ahead and take that link and paste it in the chat one more time. She said, there it is. Couldn't find my chat for a minute. And that's an AI designed for healthcare workers. Healthcare providers. So have some fun with that one, guys.
But I
There's-
just opened, it said page not found.
Oh, maybe I might have put it in wrong. Hold on one second.
It worked.
I just clicked on it. I see it now. It says it's class AI 1.0.
Yeah, it worked
Yeah,
for me.
it's glass.health.
class.health.
Here, I'm going to paste the link one more time.
Yeah, thanks everyone. It's just the way it sounded when they were talking about it. It sounds very similar to how like we train our students. So like a patient walks in with these symptoms, what's on the differential for diagnoses, and it sounded relevant to what we're doing at Rush. So I'm just curious if anyone had used it. Thanks.
I'm excited to learn, you know, as this one gets better, they're just going to keep getting better, right? So yeah, and what I'm going to be upfront. I read a quote earlier today, and I don't want to scare anybody, but the quote that I read said, and in fact, somebody asked this question the last session that we had. They said, "Are we going to all lose our jobs?" And of course, no. However, here's the catch, right? You're not going to lose your job because of ChatGPT. You're going to lose your job because of somebody who takes the time to really learn ChatGPT and can manipulate it better than you can. This is one of those, like, it's kind of as big as when personal computers came into being at all, right? There were people that were never going to give up their slide rule. And by God, they weren't going to use any old stinking computer. Well, they aren't really in the industry anymore, are they? You know, so change is coming, and there's no stopping this.
I just want to shout out to Peg and Laura. Thank you for, spending some time with us in the College of Nursing. After your presentation, that really quick, ChatGPT, I actually found, I was reading through DMP project papers, the drafts that were due like a week ago, and I found one. And it was very interesting, exactly what you said, that it didn't make sense with the rest of the body of the paper. There was a section there that didn't make sense. And then it was single space, which I was actually surprised the students still submitted it. And then when I clicked on the reference, it did not exist. So thank you. Otherwise, I would have just thought, oh, maybe the student just forgot to, format it differently. So, but after a closer look, you were right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that's the problem. Is it's the one thing I know we're not good to use technology and assimilate it and use it in our teaching and stuff. But the thing about it is AI is so fast that now how can we recognize that this is really plagiarized or this is driven by an AI? I mean, we are using AI every day. We use Grammarly. We use anything in the internet is AI. So it's like we're using it, but how do we really ensure that it's our students are not taking the easy step to use it? I think that's the challenge for us faculty. We need to adapt.
Well, so I was
Laura
going
and
to say
Emily,
one
do you
thing.
want to address that too? Julianne, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that my children have used it. And the interesting thing is I can identify, it's just the way that it structures the sentence and some of the verbiage that it uses. I can pick it out, like, and my son's in high school and he uses it, but he uses it and edits quite a bit, like just to get your thought process going. But you can tell by just reading it. Once you've read them a couple of times, you can say, oh, those words are very common in the AI. I don't know. I just could recognize which ones were and which ones weren't that they had written.
That's a great point, Julianne. And maybe that's just also a muscle that we need to develop as faculty, because I can tell you that I can recognize when someone just went into Google and copied and pasted something based upon the verbiage and just the style of the writing, right? So maybe it'll take time to develop that skill when it comes to automatic detection of AI, or maybe AI will just become too good. We won't be able to.
I mean, how do you then deal with it? Like you have a student who turned in a paper that is really, really bad. And then you tell them, okay, go find an editor, go find a writing session and go get support, and then turn in like a perfectly written paper 3 weeks later. with citations, and it's not plagiarized. It doesn't turn it in. It's like, how do you then can you fail the student? It's like, who wrote this paper?
Well, and that's where you really have to look at your teaching methods and how you're presenting your assignments, right? That's where you have to change up your guidelines so that they're not able to use an AI tool to create the result that you want. So instead of doing a paper, have them do a project where they have to create something else that only they can do.
No, but this is like a draft 1 of a scholarly paper, and then they turn in draft 2 of the scholarly paper, which is 100% like turnaround. Like, who wrote this draft 2?
Yeah, in which case they probably went on to a site like writemypaper.com and had somebody else who had a degree in the field jam out a quick paper for a few $100.
Yeah,
that, that's a real thing.
Yeah, and you know what I'd like to do in those circumstances? Sorry to jump in, Peg. Sometimes I just ask to meet with a student and say, how did you come about? How did you develop the second draft? What was your process behind it? Because it can be hard to know until you really get down to brass tacks and talk about it with them, right? That's been a little in the past.
You definitely have to be, that's exactly what I would do, Laura, is I would talk to the student and you have to be so careful not to accuse, never accuse a student, right? But you can say, geez, I've never seen a student turn this around so quickly. The only other time I've seen this is when students have had, someone else write their paper. I'm just concerned that, that might be, that might have happened here, something very general and light so that they don't feel like you're attacking them.
Right. Great point.
But that also, speaks to establishing a policy around using AI so that it's not something that has to be on the down low. Either my prejudice at this point is that it probably should be acknowledged this is a tool people are going to use, and if so, then it should be open for conversation between the instructor and the student without the fear of retribution or something like that.
So we're in the very last seconds here. I don't want to keep anybody over time. So I want to jump back to our actual presentation.
Good for reeling us back in, Peg. I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, I know. I really could have let the conversation just flow, and because that's the good stuff, right? Is when y'all are talking. And I don't know, is this supposed to be my slide, guys? Am I closing us out?
I think it's mine, but I think a lot of this has already been said. It's really just, reassuring you guys that, none of us are experts yet. We're all still learning, and it's okay, I think, to not know yet. But you really just take advantage of the resources you have. Take advantage of City, take advantage of the library, especially having the library come and talk to your students about how to properly research and cite can be helpful too. You also might encounter colleagues that already have a policy that's specific to your area of expertise that you could use and modify in your teaching. And again, we have a policy forthcoming for Rush. But yeah, it's really just a reminder to know that you're not alone out there, and we're here.
We are here and we're ready to help you. We're going to send out a document after we close out the session. We're going to send you the resources. We're going to send you all the notes that we've got. We're going to invite you to look at our public folder. Laura's done a super infographic that you can print out and share and post on the walls and do whatever you want to do with it. Laminate it for sure, because infographics are our friend. But that will that'll give you some good tips to remember, and then mostly just remember that it ain't nothing but a thing. If they're gonna cheat, they're gonna cheat. So it's up to us to design assignments that they can't cheat with. So that's our next task. Not sure here. Let's see what we got left. Oh, our for those of you that are left, I guess it's only us. There's just a few of you left, but please do go in and complete our exit ticket. That's how we know whether we're doing a good job on this stuff or not. And by all means, if you have questions afterwards, you can email us, any of us, at any time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.